The Dog Show with Nick and Joe. The Dog Show.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Nick White, owner of Off Leash Canine, joined here by my partner, Joe Zitzelberger.
What up?
For the Dog Show.
What
with
is
Nick and
going
Joe.
on? How's it going?
Where is everyone out there watching from today? If you would comment below, let us know where you are at in the world so we can see what our demographics are to this fine, amazingly cold
Dude,
day.
this weather.
It's brutal.
We gotta do something about this weather, huh?
Super brutal. In Virginia, at least. I don't know about where you guys are.
Yeah, one of our trainers in Phoenix did a Facebook post yesterday of him riding his bike in his neighborhood with his dogs with a tank top and shorts on, and I was instantly pissed. Instantly. I mean, it is. If you guys are anywhere around the this cold front that's over here on the East Coast right now, it is brutal. I mean, it is just awfully cold. I'm ready for summer.
Insanely brutal at that. It's brutal for people, so it's equally as brutal for your dogs.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so let's get in some news, Nick. What do you have going on in the stories today?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the cold front that we were just talking about, there's actually, I think it's the Animal Control Group in Saginaw, Michigan that I saw in the news. January 12th, they're actually going to spend the night out, like outside in a dog box to kind of raise awareness for leaving your pets outside. So there's like 2 or 3 animal control officers in Michigan that I saw the story on, where they're going to go out, sleep in a dog box, like, a legit dog box. They said they're going to put down straw in the dog box. I think they're going to go out at like 6 or 7 p.m. and stay out till like 6 a.m. in order to help raise awareness for the effects of leaving your dog out in the cold. And I think that's it's going to be pretty brutal for them, especially in Michigan. Like, I'm from Ohio, and it gets pretty brutal there. So it should be interesting. I think it's January 12th they're going to be doing this, so it should be pretty interesting to see how that plays out.
I'd be interested to see how that goes. So I was actually last night kind of scrolling through news stories on Google, and man, if you just go to Google right now and you type in dog news, you are going to see dozens of stories of this crazy winter storm we just had come through the East Coast. I believe it's still actually going on up north. Anyhow, yeah. But you will literally see dozens of dogs that have died due to their owners being dicks and leaving them outside, chained to fences, and thinking that they're going to be okay. And that is, it's insane to me, man. Like, why leave your dog outside when you know you're going to have sub-zero temperatures, snow, ice, and you legitimately believe that your dogs are going to be okay? Like, they're literally finding dogs frozen.
Yeah, literally.
Organs shut down, frozen. So, here's my advice, guys. Don't be an asshole.
That's solid advice.
Thank you. If it's cold outside, bring your fucking dog in. I mean, is it that difficult to do? I mean,
you shouldn't have a dog.
And that's my theory. If you cannot bring your dog in the house for whatever reason, give them to somebody who can do it, during winter storms, for God's sake. Anyhow, that is my number one story that I went over, which actually ends up being like 1,000 stories, it seems like. So
yeah, I've definitely seen that in the news a lot. I also, to kind of add to that, I think it was in Florida, I saw they were finding iguanas, like lizards and iguanas, like frozen to trees, and literally because they're just not used to temperatures like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, just don't be a dick. If you have a dog, bring them inside. You know, my general rule of thumb for everything, like when it's hot pavement, when it's cold, my rule is is this pavement hot enough where I would walk barefoot on it? If not, I don't take my dog on it. Is it cold enough out where I would want to sleep outside or be outside for a prolonged period of time? If not, I don't put my dog out there.
And it's simple. If you don't leave your kids outside in the freezing cold with the winter storm going on, don't leave your dog outside.
Yeah, and the problem is, to add a little bit more to that, because I've heard this a lot. I mean, as a trainer, I speak with literally thousands of people a year about a wide variety of things in training. And the thing I hear about is like, oh, they're dogs, they're used to it. They're not used to it. They're an inside dog, just like you're an inside person. If you're a person, like an Eskimo that lived outside or something your whole life, you're used to it. And your body's adapted and all this. But if you're an inside dog that's used to 70 degrees in year-round inside the house, they're no more used to it than you are.
Yeah, no doubt.
And what we'll do is, once we end this, I actually have a really good picture that shows you like the general safe, unsafe temperatures for your dog. So it'll say, based off this being your breed of dog or the size of dog, this is the temperatures that it's safe for your dog, this is the temperatures where it's questionable, and this is the temperatures where it's no longer safe. So I'll post that in the comments below once we finish up this.
Yeah, and we'll also post the news stories up on our website, which is thedogshowpodcast.com. So what else you got? What else you got in the news?
Yeah, you know, speaking of the cold, I noticed that it affects like my iPhone. You know, I noticed like when it was really cold out yesterday, my iPhone was like slow motion. You know, I'm talking. Have you experienced that where you see it like kind of warping into the next zone? And it made me think, like, what's your thoughts on iPhone coming out saying that they pretty much purposefully slow down older phones? What do you think about that?
I have been calling this shit for as long as I've had an iPhone. And I don't think it's just me. I think it's everyone. We've all been calling this. Like, new iPhone comes out, all of a sudden, yours goes to crap. And it can only be one thing, right?
Yeah.
It can only be that they are trying to get us to upgrade to the new phone. But anyhow, so I guess what the story is they finally admitted it? I didn't read into it.
Yeah, so pretty much this like 16, 17-year-old kind of did some investigative reporting, and he found out somehow, I mean, he's a tech kid, and he found out like, hey, this is definitely something that's going on. And he posted a Reddit about it, and it got a ton of exposure. And then Apple pretty much came out and said, yeah, you know, with your lithium-ion batteries in your phone, we kind of slow them down when new models come out. And I think they're kind of trying to backtrack, saying they're doing it to prolong the life of the phone. But it is what it is at the end of the day. Pretty much, the new iPhone 7 comes out. If you got an iPhone 6, you notice it starts crashing, it's slowing down. So what do? You buy the new iPhone.
Yep. And I'm not buying into it this year. I didn't get it. Did you get the new one?
I have the iPhone 7 Plus, but I did not get like the 8 or the iPhone Generation XV or whatever it was.
I think I read that they're going to actually, they came down on the price for the battery. So I think I'm just going to do that because I as well have the 7 Plus, and I'm just going to get a new battery. And problem solved. And
tell Apple to screw off.
Yep, screw you, Apple.
Yeah, it's pretty genius though if you think about it.
It really is. And you know what? It was just a matter of time before they got caught in, you know, so.
They've had a good run.
It is what it is. So, I have kind of a cool story here. A dog snatched by an eagle in Pennsylvania yard found alive miles away.
Dude, I saw that. How crazy is that?
So I guess this kid's out walking his dog, and here comes this eagle, and it snatches up this Bichon, and the kid was interviewed by the local news and said that he thought he was hallucinating. And apparently, I mean, I don't know, I didn't read all the way into it, but apparently the eagle did finally, I don't know if he landed him softly.
He landed him.
Or he,
He just
dropped
dropped
him in midair. Regardless, the dog's okay. And yeah, I think they're going to be a little bit more careful when letting their dog out. So anyhow.
So yeah, when I saw that story, I started reading into it a little bit, and what had happened, well, what they estimate happened is, again, due to this cold weather that we're having, right, is they live next to a creek or a stream, those people, and that stream has frozen up, which it normally doesn't. So what they think, the theory is, since the stream's frozen up that the eagle's used to going to for its source of food, now it's just, that's frozen up. So what it's doing is it's looking for an alternative source. So it's just flying around the neighborhood, sees this, like, I don't know, what was it, 8, 10, 12-pound Bichon, and it's like, good enough for me. Then it just flies down. It's like, how crazy is that?
I've heard, I've actually done, I did 2 Yorkies for the board and train program probably about 5 years ago, and the owner insisted that I did not take the dogs outside. I swear.
That was like her fear?
I could not. They had pee pads in their kennel, and she did not want her dogs outside because she feared of whether it was eagles or larger birds picking them up and taking them away. So,
to be honest, we have now 320 trainers in off-leash canine training. If one of my trainers said I was out working a dog and eagle snatched down and flew away with it, prior to this, I would have never believed it. I mean, would you?
No, I mean,
especially like it's not like a teacup Yorkie.
I don't even know if I still believe it, to be honest. I mean, I kind of want to see the video. I mean, now that we know the dog's okay, I kind of wish there was a video so we could watch it. I mean, that would definitely be something to see. So, what else you got?
What else? Well, speaking of, we had a lot of Christmas dogs, I'm sure, because every year, as you know, there's an influx of dogs being new puppies, and influx. People's buying them for their girlfriend, for their mom, their dad, their brother, their sister, their neighbor. And I think it's important. What we want to talk about a lot today, what I think is important, is that people, I don't think that there's a process to ensure you're getting the right dog for you. Like, we see that all the time as trainers. I would say, what would you say? Would you say 50% of people you don't feel like got the dog that's right for them? What would your kind of estimate be based off what you see?
Man, that's a solid question. I'd probably go higher than 50%.
Really? You think higher?
Yeah, I do. For me, it's a lot of trying to just figure out what kind of lifestyle you live as a human. Are you energetic? Do you like to be out, hiking a lot? Stuff like that. And if so, you should get a dog that kind of matches your energy. And be honest with yourself. If you're a lazy bum who likes to lay on the couch all day, then don't get a Mal. I mean, that's
enough said on that.
That's probably not a good mix. So I mean, that would at least be my initial interpretation of what kind of dogs to stay away from, or what kind of dogs to get, based off of the energetic or non-energetic lifestyle that you may or may not have.
And I feel like, to clarify, I feel like you gave an example of 2 extremes, like the lazy bum. That's one extreme, and then you got a Mal, that's another extreme, where I don't feel like most people fall into those extremes. I feel like it's general, like, what we hear all the time.
But people do fall into
those. Yeah, we've seen it for sure, unfortunately. But what I feel like most people fall into is, what we see, I would say, the most is people that got the German Shepherd. Like, we literally got an email from this yesterday, I could pull it up, and they want to do protection with it.
Shout out to that person who emailed us yesterday.
And they got a German Shepherd from Lines or a rescue or a shelter or breeder, wherever they got it from. And within 8 seconds of seeing that dog, I'm like, there's a 0% chance this dog will ever be a protection dog. And now they're stuck with this dog for 15 years that they got for this specific purpose, and that dog will never, ever, ever fulfill that purpose.
Yeah.
And then we see the same with the reverse, where they want a therapy dog or an emotional support dog for their daughter or a service dog for their son or whatever, and they show up with a borderline, working line German Shepherd dog, and now that dog will never fulfill that purpose that they got it for, and they're stuck with that dog for 15 years, or they take it to the shelter, which everyone hates. And so I'd love to spend some time us discussing that.
Well, and you know, kind of in based off that, in my opinion, you know, we're right now currently talking about specific breeds, and to me, and you may disagree with this, Nick, but to me, the breed is pretty irrelevant. I mean, not completely irrelevant, obviously,
because there are certain characteristics tend to go with a breed,
right? But I mean, you can go to a shelter if you want to rescue a dog, because we're not saying, guys, go out if you want a therapy dog, go get a golden retriever or a lab. You could easily go to a humane society or SPCA or whatever, and you can actually spend time with this dog, to figure out what kind of energy level it has, what kind of manners it has. Does it have any obedience? What's the history of the dog? So you can get all of these things that you're looking for in a rescue dog, for sure. It doesn't have to be breed specific. I've seen, German Shepherds, as you were just talking about, that, are kind of balls to the wall, fifth gear drive all the time. And then I've seen German Shepherds that just kind of lay around all day.
Yeah, they would be a good therapy dog.
Right. So, I mean, I definitely want to touch on today, what are we looking for? Maybe not necessarily breed, but qualities. What qualities are we looking for, Nick?
Yeah, so the first thing is, what I would recommend is decide, the first thing that you need to do is decide, what am I getting a dog for? I think that's the first step in everyone's calculation, is what am I getting a dog for, and do I have time? Be honest with yourself, and do I have time for that dog? 'Cause that's the most important thing. But you have to decide, what do I want a dog for? Do I want a dog to be a personal protection dog, and I want to do bite work with them, or Schutzhund, or French Ring, or Mondio, or something like that? Or do I want a therapy dog because I want to go visit, in the weekends, I want to go visit places like Walter Reed and take the dog and help, cheer up the wounded warriors and stuff there? Or do I want a service dog because I have epilepsy or, diabetic issues, or a detection dog or tracking dog? So I think the first thing you have to do once you have time for a dog is decide, what do I want this dog for? And then go into the next step, which is finding the right dog for specifically what you want the dog for.
Yeah, no doubt. And another thing that you got to consider is, where do you live? Consider that. That's a huge factor. If you live in, Washington, D.C. in a high-rise apartment, let's be realistic, you probably shouldn't have a working line dog, in personal protection or something like that, to where they require, this much physical energy to be exhausted every day. If they only have a small little area in the courtyard where they're allowed to run, yet there's a lot of yappy dogs surrounding them all the time. They really have nowhere to run and play, fetch, or whatever he likes to do. You have to take that into consideration. So that's definitely something that, and also climate. I think climate is big. Obviously we see Huskies in Florida, and we see Huskies in Texas and Arizona.
Last year I saw them in Hawaii even. So
I'm not a fan of that though, man. Like, I feel like those dogs need to be in colder climate states. The Minnesotas, Alaska, northern New York, Maine, states like that, to where they're almost in their element. If you get a Tamascan or a Malamute or something, you stick it in the middle of South Florida, for his entire life. Obviously, he's going to get used to it after a while, but I mean, it's just not in their element. So they're not going to have that typical Malamute energy and personality that they normally would, because in my opinion, they're just not in their element. And I always feel bad, like when I'm out even in Virginia, because I mean it gets hot as shit in the state.
Or Phoenix,
Oh my
or
God,
Vegas,
right? And you see somebody walking their dog, and you know it's this huge, fluffy, hairy thing, and it just looks miserable. Now, again, that's not the case for every single one of them, but you can't deny, right, that is the case for several of them. You know, some of them just can't adapt, and you know it's it is what it is. So
yeah, and so as I said, I would say the first thing that you need to do is find the reason that you want a dog, and then your second thing that you need to do is go out and find that dog, whether you're using a breeder, whether you're using a shelter, whether you're using a rescue. You know, I'm not one of those people that's going to sit here and yell at you and tell you that, you know, no matter what, you should always adopt, don't shop, because that's not always the case. Some of the times that's true, some of the times it's not true. It depends on what you're looking for. But regardless of where you get the dog, breeder, shelter, rescue, anything, is you can test these dogs as puppies. You know, a kind of a good general rule of thumb that people don't realize is however a dog is at 8 to 10 weeks is generally how they're going to be at 1 to 4 years old. A lot of people don't realize that. And you can tweak that some because there's, you know, social environment, there's training, there's confidence building. There's a bunch of things that you can do or not do as an owner to affect that throughout their life. But in general, what you see at 8 weeks old is pretty much going to be what you see at 2 years old. And a lot of people don't realize that. So there's a really good test, a puppy aptitude test. There was a breeder, I think German Shepherd breeder named Wendy and Jack Volhard, may have mispronounced it, that created this puppy aptitude test that I consider highly, highly accurate. I'll actually post, after we finish this, we'll put up that test on our website, thedogshowpodcast.com, and it's literally a checklist test that you do with puppies at 8 weeks old. And you can do it with adults as well, but you can do this test, and at the end of the test, you total up the score, and it'll tell you this is the type of dog that this dog is based off the score. Based off this score, this dog is a high drive, high dominant, alpha, high energy dog, and if he's that way at 8 weeks, that's exactly how you can expect he's going to be at 2 years old. That needs, you know, an experienced handler, an experienced owner. Or that test will say, based off all these calculations that you've done and these fill in the blanks you've done, this dog is a highly submissive, fearful, you know, may possibly be a fear biter in its future. It'll tell you this is the type of dog. This dog would be good for a therapy dog. This dog would be good for a protection dog or a working dog. This dog is always going to be a fearful, high anxiety dog. So we'll post that up here, but it's a really, really good test that'll give you a great baseline foundation to tell you what type of dog you're getting. And that's kind of what drives me crazy, is if some people just did this test at 8 weeks before they brought the dog home, they would have known that it's the wrong dog for them.
And you almost got to take emotions out of it, right? Because of course we walk into, you know, test this puppy or whatever, and we see that, you know, the dog, you know, really doesn't pass any of our tests of what we're looking for in a dog.
But he's cute as shit.
So it's like, oh, you know, I can't leave him here in the shelter. But, you know, be realistic with yourself. You know, can you provide what this dog needs? And, you know, can this dog provide what you're looking for in a pet? So, you know, those are huge, huge factors that I actually 100% agree with you with.
Yeah, and that's like one of my biggest pet peeves that people don't realize is, and you know, if you think about it, it sucks for the dog and it kind of sucks for the owner, because now the dog's stuck with an owner that isn't going to use him for what he got him for, and now the owner's stuck with the dog for the same exact reason. So you can literally do this test at 8, 9, 10 weeks old. You can do it with adults, and it'll generally, because there's exceptions to every rule, but in general, I think it's very accurate, and it'll tell you exactly what type of dog that you're getting. And it's, you know, a test that kind of gauges, you know, certain things like social attraction, following, restraint, social dominance, retrieving, like and you literally, it's numbered 1 through 6. And so you'll test his socialization, like did the dog initiate contact with you? Did he stay with you? Did he nibble on your hands when he was initiating contact with you. That shows he's probably a little more drivey. Did he lick? Did he not look at you? Okay, based off what this dog did, he's a number 3. And then you move on to the next one, like make a loud noise. How did the dog react to the noise? Number 1, he didn't care. Number 2, he looked at it but didn't pay much attention to it. And then, number 6 is like he took off running in the opposite direction, refused to come back. So you just circle these, and at the end of this test, it'll tell you, based off your total score, this is the type of dog that this is, whether it's high drive dominant. This dog is chill, mellow, not affected by much, and he would be a good therapy dog. This dog is super skittish, super fearful, will probably end up being a fearful, skittish, potential fear biter dog, would not be good at a working dog or a therapy dog. So we'll post that on our website. It'll be up today. Again, that's thedogshowpodcast.com. And I would highly suggest everyone print it out. I actually added to the test to throw that disclaimer in there. I took the original test and I added to it for tracking, and I added to it for detection. So people that are looking for potential tracking or detection dog, I added those tests in there of my personal thoughts on what I would look for as a puppy. So you can test protection, tracking, therapy, detection, or just this dog is a great pet for an average first-time owner, essentially.
And to kind of go off of that, if you're not going to walk into this place with a test form and you're not, you're realistically not going to do this test, then, write a list of things down to look for on your own that are important to you, especially if you're going into a rescue or an SPCA or something, is a dog already potty trained important to you? You may think to yourself, oh, it doesn't matter, I can potty train it. But what happens if, you don't have the time to potty train it, and then, you struggle with that and you get frustrated, and ultimately the dog's going back to the shelter. So, make a list. And guys, there's actually a lot of rescues and shelters that offer foster first programs, where you can actually take the dog in and foster it, quote unquote, for an unset amount of time to figure out if it's a right fit for you. And something with humans, man, where I feel like that's probably a psychological thing. Like if you were to go to a shelter, you tell me what you think on this, Nick. If you were to go into a shelter and say, yeah, I want to adopt this dog right here, and you get that dog back home, and after, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks, you're like, man, this dog is definitely not the right fit for my family, but I'm his owner and I feel bad and I don't want to give up on him. So I'm going to keep, pretty much making all of us, including the dog, miserable because it's not the right fit, So whereas if you foster a dog, right? Are you following here? If you foster a dog and 3-4 weeks go by and it's not the right fit, then psychologically, us as humans, I feel like we would be like, oh, well, I'm just fostering, so it's okay to give this dog back to the shelter. So if your rescue or shelter has that option, then by all means, take advantage of that. I think that's a really, really great option.
Yeah, I would agree. And like I said, guys, it's so common that we see this. So much we have people who want that German Shepherd or Doberman or whatever it is, or Rottweiler, to be a protection dog, and literally within 5 seconds of evaluating that dog, and I'm brutally honest, like I'm nice about it, but brutally honest, I'm like, yeah, this dog is never ever gonna be a protection dog. So you ever thought about nose work, or you ever thought about therapy dog or anything like that? But it's just so common, and it's just, do your research. If you're getting a dog from a breeder, do your research on the breeder. Like I personally always would love, ideally, it's not always possible because depending on where you're getting the dog, but I would love to meet, the parents of that dog, because that's another thing people don't consider. Like I talked about a little bit, I touched on it in the podcast we did last week, where scientists estimate that 40% of a dog's temperament is genetics. So if the parents of that dog was highly aggressive and super unsocial and skittish, then there's a high chance that that's affecting this dog. And again, if you did this test, then you could kind of help rule that out in the beginning, but so it's just, as I always say, people are like dogs. Genetics plays a big part in it. One of my really good friends, someone that I look up to greatly, he was actually on the Facebook Live. He did a Facebook Live with me like a year ago. If you guys get a chance, watch it. Is world-renowned bird dog trainer George Hickox.
Yeah.
I had him on with me. Great Facebook Live if you guys get a chance. But one of the things I stole from George is he says to make a great dog, it takes, like the best dog, it takes 3 components, which is genetics, nutrition, and training. He said if you eliminate any one of those 3, it's going to have a negative effect. So he's like, the 3 things you have to have in amazing dogs: genetics, nutrition, and training. And this is to be like a top dog, not to be like a pet dog or anything like that, to clarify. And where I saw this most at is I spent, like a week in Alaska a couple years ago.
Oh my God.
And it was brutal, guys. It was -40.
I actually thought about that yesterday when I was freezing my ass off. I was like, dude, it was like literally 50 degrees colder where you were filming that show.
Yeah, it was brutal when I was there. I was doing the show called Escape to Alaska, and it was -40. It was brutal. And I got the honor, the privilege, everything you can say, to work every day for a week with Jeff King. For those of you guys that don't know, Jeff King is Iditarod Hall of Famer, 3-time Iditarod winner. He's, pun intended, he's the top dog in this field, like a legend. When we went out to like Alaska, when we would go out to dinner, literally like people are swarming like for pictures and stuff with him. He's like a legend in Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
He's a 3-time Iditarod winner, Iditarod Hall of Famer.
For sure.
And he pretty much said the same exact thing with George without breaking it down to those 3 basic things. But he's known to have some of the top dogs, and he's like, well, what I do is my champion dogs that won the Iditarod, my lead dog, I breed that dog with another lead dog, and then, so he's got the best genetics, and then he does nutrition. He's never fed them like kibble, like they eat like humans, like huge stew, pots, meat, like that's what they're feeding them, and then they're training, they're hitting the treadmill, they're pulling sleds, they're pulling ATVs. During the spring, when there's not snow, he hooks them to ATVs and he just puts it in neutral and they're pulling him on an ATV. So genetics, nutrition, and training, pretty much what Jeff said and what George said, I agree, is the 3 key main elements once you get into high-level dogs. And for pet dogs, as I said, you just got to ensure that it's an actual good pet dog.
So what you're saying is you wouldn't take one of those sled dogs and adopt him out to a somebody that lives in New York City by any chance?
No, yeah, or like downtown Phoenix or Las Vegas where it's 130 every day.
And then another thing to consider, guys, when looking for a dog or a puppy is, you got to be realistic with yourself. Can you afford it? There's so many. I would love to know the stats on this, and maybe somebody can look it up, or I'll look it up later, of how many dogs are surrendered to shelters and stuff because they just couldn't afford it. Whether they didn't realize that a Great Dane eats 12 cups of food a day and they can't afford to buy a new bag once a week, or maybe you have a dog that's high maintenance and requires weekly or bi-weekly grooming. These are things to consider, and you should always I always recommend, if you have a dog, you should have an account like dedicated to that dog for an oh shit scenario. Honestly,
Yeah.
God forbid you get a puppy and puppy eats a rock and has to have surgery to get the rock removed. That we're looking at $3,000. So what happens if you don't have the $3,000? You know what I mean? Because I'm here to tell you, the vets aren't going to say, okay, well, we'll do it anyway. That's not how they operate. They're a for-profit business. So, as sad as that is, but, you have to be realistic on the cost of owning an animal. It's expensive, especially if there's medical issues involved, or, they come up over time. So it's definitely something you want to consider.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't consider the things, and just the time. I think that's the biggest thing people don't consider, is the time. That do you have the time to commit to that dog? And if you get like a lazy dog that's just content laying around the house all day, then sure, it works out. But again, that's why we're stressing the importance of getting the right dog and being honest with yourself and getting the right dog that truly matches your lifestyle. If you're a outdoors person that runs, triathlons and you do 10-mile hikes every day, then you may not want to get that lazy bulldog or golden retriever that just wants to lay around all day. And now you got a dog that you can't do anything with. And then vice versa, as Joe said, if you're the lazy bum that just sits around your house all day, you probably don't want to get, a Belgian Malinois from, one of the top kennels in Holland. So just be honest with yourself and get a dog. And I feel like I was actually on the board of directors, still am, for the Prince William County Humane Society. And I feel like a lot of the dogs that get returned are mismatched dog and owner, things like that. Or the time. They just decide they didn't have, it's like, oh, the dog's tearing stuff up in my house. Well, that's because he's not getting exercise because you're not putting the time. Or he's not getting exercise because he's a high energy dog that needs exercise and you're not a high energy person to give him exercise. So a lot of the dogs, I think the actual number in general at the ASPCA is like 20%. 20% of the dogs that are getting from an animal shelter are given back to a shelter, which is super high. Yeah. I mean, that's 1 out of 5. And I feel like if people were honest with themselves and tested the dogs that I was talking about, that number would probably, between being honest with themselves and testing the dogs to make sure it was the right dog for them, I feel like that number would drop 50% or more.
And I mean, the truth is the rescues and the shelters also have to do a better job, in the breeders. They have to do a better job at selecting families. It's not always about, hey, we got 70 dogs in the shelter and we need to get them out as quickly as possible. Yeah. Whereas, the truth is that, some of those dogs that you adopt out probably have or had a better life in the shelter than they do where they're going. So, you got to take that into consideration. There's also some other things that, sometimes are overlooked, especially if you're adopting and rescuing and stuff like that. What's important to you, or manners important to you. When you go meet this dog, does he jump on you? But is that one of your pet peeves? You got to consider that. Do you have a cat? If you have a cat, you got to make sure this dog is tested with cats first, because, that could be a bad day, right? So, check that off the list. Check the drive. Kids, potty trained. To me, that's a huge, huge one. I know one thing for sure. I have enough dogs right now, as you know, so I won't be getting any anytime soon. But when, years down the road, when I am ready to, adopt another dog, one thing that I'm really big on, I don't want to potty train. I despise potty training.
The process of potty training?
I mean, it is like having an infant for the first 6 months. I mean, you always got to keep an eye on the dog. You got to get up throughout the night. So, that's a huge thing, at least for me, to consider when adopting a dog is it already potty trained, and if possible, and I'm ready to adopt a dog, if possible, I'm going to do a foster first program. I want to ensure that this dog's going to be, the right fit for my family. Yeah. So, that just a lot of these things, guys, are common sense, but I feel like that
you would think
but the excitement takes over, and I get that. You especially if it's a family's first dog, first pet. They get to the shelter, they get to the rescue, they get to the breeder, and they see these cute puppies, these cute dogs, and emotions take over everything. They're like, oh, he's so cute, he loves me. Oh, look, he's chewing on my pants. How cute is that? That's probably not cute. It may be cute while he's 8 weeks old.
Or if you're looking for a working dog, it's cute.
Right, but assuming you're not, it may be cute when the puppy's 8 weeks old, but, when he turns 85 pounds and you haven't gotten it any formal obedience training for whatever reason, maybe you can afford it or, it just never happened, you never, looked into it, and he's 80 pounds and he's chewing on your kid's pants, that's not cute anymore. Now, you have other issues going on. And then the problem with that, guys, that I feel like that happens way too often is we as owners, we hold on to the dogs, when we know it's not the right fit for our family, and we hold on to them as long as we can until maybe they're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And then we finally just get fed up and say, I can't do it anymore. And you give them to a rescue. Well, now you've just developed pants biting or shirt biting or whatever, for 5, 6, 7 years. So when you go to a reputable training company and you should be going for just normal obedience, now it's almost like a rehab program. Now you got to unfuck pretty much everything that family did for 6 or 7 years, all because they felt bad. So, my point in this is, say you went through the test, say you did everything you were supposed to do, right? And you get home and you find out that it's just not a good fit. Don't wait. You're actually doing the dog more damage by waiting and trying to stick it out versus giving them back to the shelter or, trying to adopt them out yourself to somebody else, to a family that's almost essentially a better fit, So you owe it to that dog that you adopted or rescued or bought to make sure that they have the best life possible. Because again, as I said in last week's show, Nick, it's not their fault why we domesticated them, right? So that's kind of my theory on that. So, we owe it to them to give them the best life possible, as close to their primal needs as possible, with obviously not allowing them to go absolutely crazy, in the house and stuff. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and the big thing too is if you're looking to get from like a breeder. I have a really good friend that's a breeder, Stephanie O'Brien. She breeds some of the best Mals, really good Malinois. She lives in California. She's actually a trainer at Off Leash as well. And there's things that you need to look for when it comes, if you're gonna get from a breeder, to look for that you ensure it's a good breeder. Like a breeder shouldn't let you just pick one of their dogs. A good breeder shouldn't let you pick one of their dogs off pictures on their website. Like, oh, I want the one with the blue collar. And they're like, all right, great, he's yours. Because they should want to match it, with you. They should want to say, well, let's come in, let me talk to you. They should pretty much want to do what I just told you. Like, what's your lifestyle like? Okay, based off what you told me, I know the blue one you think is prettier, but the one with the orange collar, Jax, he's actually the more realistic one for your lifestyle. So that's one of the first red flags I would say to look out for is if there's a breeder who's like, yeah, just show up, you can have whichever one you want without doing, any application process, without doing any background on you. Like, well, what's your home like? Do you have a fenced-in yard? Because these dogs are high energy. They need a lot of exercise. Like Stephanie, someone can email Stephanie and say, I love that Mal, I'll give you $10,000 for it right now. She's going to be like, what's your experience? Are you a trainer? Are you a handler?
Yeah.
Like, what's your experience with Malinois? Like, she's just not going to let someone that shows up with a pocket full of money take one of her dogs, because she has those dogs' best interest in her mind and has your best interest in mind. She knows that if you're a new owner that's never had a dog before, an inexperienced handler, that one of her Mals is going to drive you literally insane, and you're just going to end up screwing up the Malinois, and she's going to get it back anyway. So things that you want to look for in a good breeder is like, what's their application process like? Are they educational? Or are they saying, here's what you should look for? What's your lifestyle like? And so those are some of the things that you should be looking for when you seek out a breeder. Read reviews on them, read, Google their name, see what other people in forums are saying on them. Don't just find a dog that looks cute and have it shipped to you. We've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, where'd you get this dog? They're like, oh, we got it from a breeder in Pennsylvania. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Did you guys drive out there? Did you fly out there? And they're like, well, no, we saw it online and they just flew the dog to us. Like, you should never do that. That breaks every rule that I've spent the last 10 minutes telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we say breeders, guys, there's a huge, huge difference between, reputable, good breeders that breed for specific needs and wants versus backyard breeders.
Your brother in Alabama that does it in his trailer park.
Fuck him.
Yeah.
Right? I don't support that, and if anybody has an issue with that, I apologize, but I don't care, because that is one of this country's, biggest problem with the dogs in shelters is these backyard breeders, one, have zero clue what they're doing when it comes to breeding, right? I mean, I'm not a breeder, so I don't know the exact process of how to, keep the genetic line going. But I mean, I have a pretty, I guess, solid idea. Either way, I'm still not a breeder, but these backyard breeders, they're just doing, they're just trying to make a quick $400 or $500. And like every time a client, and I could get ridiculed for this, but whatever. Every time a client said, I always ask, where'd you get the dog? I want to know as much about the dog as possible, for the one I'm training. And they automatically say, I paid $500 even. I automatically assume it was a backyard breeder. I don't know why that is. I just feel like, well-bred, any kind of breed, really, the shepherds, the bulldogs, whatever, the well-bred ones, they're going to cost more than $500, guys. I mean, that's...
You get what you pay for.
That's somebody who is trying to make a quick buck. They bought a German Shepherd or adopted or whatever. They thought it looked pretty, so they got another one, of the opposite sex. Thought that one looked cute, and they bred them, and then all of a sudden, bam, now they have 12 puppies. They're selling them for $500 a piece. But what they don't realize is that maybe they bred anxiety into these 12 puppies. Or aggression or something like that. So, you have to definitely, Nick touched on this earlier, do your research on the breeders. I cannot stress that enough. Don't support these guys out here, and ladies, of course, that are out there just trying to make a quick dollar, because these are the people that are flooding our shelters. They're the reasons why there are, I think over 70 dogs right now in the Fredericksburg SPCA. Not the sole reason, but they're a large reason of it. So, definitely do your research on the breeders.
Yeah, and I'll probably take some flack for this, but it's just true. Or my experience at least, is what I found is people that get dogs from the Amish, like in Pennsylvania and stuff, they're generally not good dogs. And I'm sure there's probably someone watching that got one from them who's going to comment that they got one and it's the best dog they've ever had, and it's the most confident, social, savage dog they've ever had in their life. But my experience is dogs that people get from the Amish, because they're usually cheap, they're not good. They're not good genetically. They're not good temperament. I see a lot of fear issues. I see a lot of nervous issues. I see a lot of social ability issues. And it's just, and I don't know this, so no one quote me on this, but I just don't feel like they do the right things with the dogs.
So what do you think? Because I mean, I've gotten that a lot too, where they got their dogs from the Amish, and I don't know a whole lot about that, but what do you think drives people to go up to Amish country to get a German Shepherd? Because in their minds, they're actually going to a reputable breeder.
Yeah, so they don't know any better.
Is it the Amish that are just selling them, and they're not, they're just used car salesmen? Is that the case? What do you think?
I think they're cheap. I think, and I don't know this, but I think people look online, maybe we'll say German Shepherds, Aussies, whatever. They look at a few different websites. They come across one on petfinder.com that looks adorable. It's in, Lebanon, Pennsylvania, and it's $300. And the other ones they looked at are $1,000 or $1,500, and they probably should have gotten the $1,500 one. So they're they look the same. Why not save $700? It's cheaper because it's Amish, right? Everything's cheaper from the Amish. Furniture, cheese, pies, all of that.
And it's kind of like, a training in a sense, whereas, spend the money now, because so it doesn't cost you later. I mean, there's so many clients that we have already been through, another training program that didn't work. And I always tell them, if you would have just done a little bit of research, whether you went with us or another reputable company, if you would have just done a little bit of research, you would have saved yourself $1,000. Because look, you're already, spending money now with us. You already wasted $1,000. Actually, we had, somebody who was in here yesterday that was kind of going through that exact same issue. So, it's definitely just one of those things to where you really got to do your research for the most part.
Yeah, we actually just had a comment I'll read from Angie. She said they actually rescued a breeding bitch from one of these places in Pennsylvania. Extremely poor health left her to die after she had complications from delivery. She had a short, happy life with us. So again, that's what I'm talking about. I would say without, and I'm going to take shit from this from someone, but I can honestly say this. I've seen a lot of dogs, as everyone knows at this point. I've never seen one from like an Amish breeder in like the Pennsylvania, anything like that I thought it was like an amazing dog. Ever. I've never seen one where I'm like, wow, this dog's awesome. Like great health, great genetics, great temperament, no issues. And I'm not saying they don't exist, to clarify for everyone out there. I'm just saying that's my personal experience. And they're just not doing the right things. Like Stephanie, like what good breeders should do, good breeders should already get them in a training, kind of a training program. Like Stephanie with her Mals, when they're 6 weeks old, I saw her do it. A great video if you want to watch is I did a Facebook Live with Stephanie about 6 months ago. And with her puppies, with her Mal puppies, dude, at like 4 or 5 weeks old, she has them in the ball pits. The ball pits. She's doing like marker training and free shaping on treadmills, so the dogs get used to jumping on treadmills and running on treadmills. Yeah. She's doing, she'll take them on the ATV and they're like following the ATV around the ranch. They're going over different obstacles and they're getting noise desensitization and object desensitization, and she's taking them places and people's coming over, so they're getting socialization. They're staying with their litter mates. So that's how it should be. Is a good breeder should be doing all these things, where I just feel like the Amish, they're having them, they put them in a kennel, post them on a website, 6-7 weeks goes by, they're just waiting for someone to show up with $300-400 cash, and they're pulling it out of the crate that it's been in for the last 6 weeks, and they're not doing all the fundamental things that a puppy needs to, and they're missing, and they're not, I assume, they're not eating amazing food. So if you go back to what good friend and legend George Hickok says, what do they need? Genetics, nutrition, and training. And I don't feel like they have any of those three. Yeah. They're not using the top dogs in the world to breed them. So they don't have the genetics. They're probably not feeding them amazing food, like high nutrition foods. They don't have the nutrition. And I don't feel like they're doing things like Stephanie does, where they're doing objects and noise and socialization and all these things that she does. So I feel like they're missing all those three elements.
And to clarify, I don't want anybody to think that we're talking shit about, we're just pinpointing out the Amish, right? Because
no, this is a problem past them.
Right.
Every backyard breeder. Insert backyard breeder with Amish, and there you go.
Right, and then we're not saying that they're complete crap people, because Amish, for example, do a lot of things really well. Like they build sheds really well. So breeding may just not be their forte. So, and that's okay. And if you're a backyard breeder and you're listening, take a step back and realize that maybe I'm pretty shitty at this and I should stop doing it. But on the other hand, maybe I'm really good at, playing video games and whatever, and figure out a way to make money off of that. I don't know, but
keep making apple pies.
Right, but but my point is if you in the backyard breeders, this goes directly to you.
They
guys.
Usually know they're shitty. Yeah.
You know you're shitty. Stop it, because you're making the trainers, the owners,
and the
dogs,
putting everyone in a bad spot.
You're putting everyone in a bad spot, and for what, $500? Like, come on, man, you're not getting rich off of it. So just knock this shit off. I mean, it's pretty simple, right?
Yeah, and that's why we kind of segued into this topic, but the general point you should take away is find a good place to get your dog, whether it's a breeder, rescue, shelter, wherever it is, doesn't matter. Do a thorough honesty assessment with yourself, so this is what I need, this is realistic for me, and then test the dogs using the thing we'll put up for you guys on the website, so that way you know exactly what you're getting. And if you do get from a breeder, then do your research on that breeder. Go check out the dogs. Ask to meet, the parents of the dogs. Like, just do your research. Don't look at it. Looking at a picture is the worst. This is what it's the equivalent of. It's literally the equivalent of like you being on like Tinder or something and Because again, remember, when you get a dog, you're stuck with them for 15 years, right? About that, 12 to 15, give or take. But would you, this is what you need to be honest and ask yourself. When you pick a dog from a picture, sight unseen, untested, don't know anything about the background, don't know anything about the breed or whatever, you don't know anything but the picture, you're literally saying, I want to go on Tinder as an adult, swipe left, oh wow, he's hot, or oh wow, she's hot. All right, I want to get married to her tomorrow and be with her for the next 15 years. Yeah. Would anyone ever do that? Yeah, some people, but there's a lot more people that do that with dogs than they do with people. And most of you would not do that with a person, but a lot of people would do that with a dog. And same thing, you don't know if that bitch is crazy. You don't know if that dude is controlling and he's abusive. You don't know if he's an alcoholic. You don't know if he hates kids and you want a big family. You don't know anything. You just know that he's attractive. So use that same psychology when you're looking at pictures of dogs. All right, this dog got my attention on the picture. Now I'm going to actually go out, have a date with him, spend some time with him, get to know him, see what he's all about. You just do the same thing with a person that you would do with a dog.
Yeah, totally agree. And, you have to do your homework. Now, what I will say is this, is it possible to go to the Amish and get a dog, or, go to a backyard breeder and get a dog, and that dog ends up being a perfect fit? Absolutely. Absolutely. We're not saying that that's not possible. There's always that
an exception to every rule.
Right. There's always that luck, but your odds are so heavily against you. So, if you just perform this simple little test that we're going to put up on the website, which is thedogshowpodcast.com today, if you just do that little test, and I promise you're going to figure out, is this dog perfect for my family? And more so, you're taking your emotions out of it, because that's the biggest thing. That's something that that I feel like happens more so than not. Whereas they see that dog, for the first time, and the dog's excited. Of course it is, because it's been sitting in a pen for the last 6 months. So, the dog's excited to see them. They think that, this dog chose me. That may be the case, but that does not mean that the dog is a good fit for you or your family and your family. So, definitely take a look at this test when we put it up later today. And, and even if you have a dog and you're not shopping for a dog, look at this test and ask yourself, did I do this with my current dog or dogs, and, for a future pick, then you have an idea to go off of. Because I promise you, it's going to save you a lot of headache, time, money, and
frustration,
stress. Name all the negative shit that you can think of. It's gonna save you all that. So let me ask you a question. Out of 1 out of 10, what would you feel? And I think I know the answer to this, but I want to know an honest answer. 1 out of 10, what would you feel the importance level, Nick, of running through this test prior to picking a dog would be?
I would say a 10.
Yeah?
Yeah, if 10's the most important, I would say a 10. Because again, it's not like it's a first date. Like, you're stuck with this dog for... And if you feel like you're stuck with the dog for 15 years, that probably means you didn't do the test. But, as I always say, a dog should complement your life, not complicate it. But yeah, I feel it's a 10 out of 10 importance, just so you know, or have a really good idea of exactly what you're getting, and then you can mold it from there. If a dog comes with like a little bit of issue, like, all right, you can use training, you can use confidence building, you can use things to tweak it. But some dogs, they're just going to be that way forever. You can improve upon it, but at the end of the day, they're still going to be that way. And that's why George stresses the things of, genetics, nutrition, and training is you can be not that great genetically and make up for it some in nutrition, but you'll never be comparable against the guy who is that way genetically and he's doing the nutrition and training. So
now you mentioned just a few seconds ago, would you say get a dog to complicate or complement your life and not complicate it?
Yeah, get a dog that complements your life, not complicates your life.
And that's beautifully said, because again, going off of that, piggybacking off of that, you get a dog because it's supposed to be fun. That's why we get dogs. You get a dog and and you're stressed out all the time, like that, you got to look. That's not why you got one, you know? I mean, it's just like, why?
It's like being in a relationship where you're always pissed off at the other person. It's like, why are you in that relationship?
Oh my God, yes, absolutely. That's a great analogy, actually. So, you know, definitely ensure that the dog you pick is for the long haul. And I promise you that if everybody did that who gets dogs, and I know this is highly impossible because not everyone is going to do that, but if everyone in the country who got dogs ran through this test, I promise you our shelters would be a lot less full, right?
If people did the test and were honest with themselves,
yeah.
Both of those are important.
Yep.
Because if you do the test but you're not honest with yourself,
you let emotions take
you're
over.
50%, you've already lost 50%.
Yeah, so if you do the test, you're honest with yourself, I promise you there's going to be a lot less dogs in the shelter. There's going to be a lot less shitty breeders out there.
Because no one's going to get those dogs.
Yeah.
Because if everyone's testing the dogs and they're like, oh, these are shitty dogs, no one's going to get them, which now they have no reason to breed because no one's buying their dogs anyway. So it eliminates a lot of things.
So where do they start? If they want to say they want to go to a breeder, how do they find is Google the place to go, Nick? Or, what are your suggestions?
I would try to ask some trainers in your area first. Like, reach out to trainers wherever you're at. Hey, I'm looking at a German Shepherd for a therapy dog or a protection dog. Can you recommend anyone? Because generally, a lot of trainers know a lot of breeders. That's usually how it works. So I would say that'd be the first step, is reach out to some trainers in your area and just say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is the type of dog I'm looking for. Do you know anyone that has dogs that meet this criteria? And I think that would be a good first step.
Yeah, no, I agree with that as well. I would definitely go to your local trainer that's reputable and talk to them. And honestly, if your local trainer that you selected to help identify good breeders for you doesn't know any good breeders at all, then they're probably not a good training company as well. So take that into consideration. So you can shop around, for trainers just as much as you can shop around for dogs, So I would say that would be step one, is find the best trainer in your area. And even if he's not in your area, if you're not opposed to, flying or driving somewhere to get a dog, hit up a Milwaukee, Wisconsin trainer that is awesome. See if they have any recommendations of local breeders for the specific, dog that you're looking for. And if they do, then even better. Then you're one foot in the door. Maybe even vets' offices. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Or vets. Anyone that works with a lot of dogs generally knows a lot of other people that works with dogs. So that's a kind of good rule to follow. And then do your own research. What's the facility look like that you're showing up? Like if you're showing up to a place and they got 7 puppies crammed in a small pen, then that kind of tells you a lot about them, or if the dogs look mangy and dirty, and just use common sense. I would say that a lot of people don't, because they get so emotionally involved in the dog in the picture.
Absolutely. All right, guys, so we are going to post all of that stuff on our website. We'll also post it in the comments section. If you're watching on Facebook Live, we'll post the news stories as well. What do you have going on? Any events or anything going on in the next week or two, or anything coming up?
Yeah, in like 5 days, I go to Naples, Italy, to train actually a German Shepherd, a 7-month-old German Shepherd for a family there. So I'm really excited about that. I've never been to Italy.
Where did they get the dog from?
I have no idea. No clue. But I'm going to Naples, Italy, the 10th. So what is that? Like 5 days I leave. And I'm really excited. I plan to crush an insane amount of cheese and wine while I'm there, and some pasta.
Italy's beautiful.
So if I don't gain at least 10 pounds while I'm in Naples, I feel like I did myself a disservice off wine and pasta and pizza. So I'm excited about that. Then I get back from there and I have a private seminar in Austin, Texas for a lovely young woman by the name of Mia Khalifa.
Google her, guys. Do it right now. If you're at work, do it.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't. So I got that going on, Mia Khalifa seminar for her 2 dogs. And then I get back from there and I have Vinny from Jersey Shore I'm going up to Jersey to train Vinny from the MTV show's Jersey Shore's dog.
Cabs here.
And so yeah, that's my immediate itinerary that we have lined up.
Sweet.
What about you? Anything exciting?
Yeah. I mean, I have, as I mentioned last week, I was getting back into to some training this week, which I did. I picked up Miss Clover, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. Anyhow, she is, oh my God, you got to see her. She is a gorgeous 6-month-old chocolate lab. She is just absolutely perfect, man. She has a great disposition. She's going to be a service dog for an 8-year-old autistic kid, highly autistic kid, and she is a perfect candidate for that. She is very loyal, eager to please, highly intelligent, and she's just absolutely adorable. So I'm having a ball with her. I think we're on day 3 right now with her, and we got her off leash, doing all the commands now. So pretty happy about that. And then obviously you're going to start with some distractions. And then next week I get Shake and Bake Baker from New York and his new brother Sherman. Baker's going to be here for 3-week detection board and train. Those, as you know, are my favorite. And Sherman, his brother, is going to be here for some obedience. Some other things we have going on. We do have a Facebook page now for the Dog Show with Nick and Joe. If you type in facebook.com/ I believe it's the Dog Show Podcast is our Facebook page. If you wouldn't mind, go over there and give it the old like button. And if you wouldn't mind sharing it, we'd greatly appreciate it. We are live, not live technically, but we are on iTunes now. I think we had record timing of our episode 1 from getting up there. We filmed it last Friday, and I believe it was up Saturday morning, yeah?
Yeah, it was up pretty quick. So if you check in your iTunes, click where the podcast app, manually type in the Dog Show with Nick and Joe, and you can listen to it on your commute to work, in the shower, wherever you want to listen to it at.
Yep, no doubt. And we also have, I believe we're on Google Play. Now, if not, I know we're heading there, where you can, even Alexa, I think we're even on Alexa, where you can go talk to her and say, Alexa, play the Nick and Dog Show episode 1, and she'll start playing it for you, which is pretty kick-ass. I love Alexa. Do you have that?
I do.
Man,
I do.
Dude, I have them, I feel like in my facility, I have them in like every room, and then in my house, I want them in every room,
Yeah, she's pretty intelligent for sure.
It's the most amazing thing.
I just love being able to play any song in the world on demand.
I don't even know how that's possible, but yeah, that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So other than that, you guys can contact us. We'd love to get emails from you on maybe future topics for the show.
Show ideas.
Questions. Yeah, for sure. Anything like that. So you can reach us, Nick and I both, at, where can they reach us? Info at
thedogshowpodcast.com. That's info at thedogshowpodcast.com. So just shoot us an email there if you have some topics you would like to see discussed, whether it's about dog training, news stories, some questions that you have that maybe we can answer on the next podcast. Just feel free to email us anything there. Again, that's info at thedogshowpodcast.com, and the email address is also on the website, which is thedogshowpodcast.com. And
anything else you got going on?
No, not really. Not that I can think of. Any New Year's resolutions that you had? I mean, we just had January 1st. So what New Year's resolutions did you guys have? Anything? If you had any great New Year's resolutions that you plan on sticking to, comment below so I can see what some of the ones you guys had are. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of New Year's resolutions, and I didn't even realize I was a huge fan until Facebook Memories popped up, and I could see all the years previous. Where I posted my New Year's resolutions on Facebook, and I don't know if it's a coincidence, but most of them proved to be that I stuck with it. So
that's awesome.
So I did make some resolutions this year.
Care to share any of them?
Yeah, shit. Yeah, why not?
What do you got?
What do I got? I want to focus on my health. eating better, stuff like that.
That's a tough one for me.
It's a tough one.
Especially since I'm getting ready to go to Italy and vowed to gain at least 10 pounds.
You should start when you come back from Italy. So that was one. Obviously, I always, want to be a better father, husband, brother, son, all that stuff. So, that's high up on my list. And then, I have some New Year resolutions, for other people that I don't necessarily have a whole lot of control over. But I do hope that it happens for them.
Health, wealth, and happiness for all.
Absolutely. That's huge for me. So what about you? How do you feel about New Year's resolutions?
I'm not a big New Year's resolution guy. I mean, I just do me. I'm very, anyone that knows me, I mean, whether you're a trainer or someone that knows me personally, knows I'm super self-critical. Like, nothing's ever good enough for me, for myself, meaning... if you guys watch my videos, my before and after videos over 2 years, you'll see the evolution. You'll see like, wow, this is impressive for a 5-day after video. And then the one I just shot in Hollywood Boulevard last week for UFC's Ariane Celeste, it was a 1-day before and after video. So it's like just nothing's ever good enough for me the way it is. That's just my personality. That's how I was in the Marines. That's how I was in the Secret Service. It's just, so I feel like I'm always trying to level up daily.
But don't you feel, at least this is the way I feel, that it's almost a reset button, right? Like, we can hit that reset button on January 1st, and obviously it's all mental, but you can hit that reset button and go, all right, new year, new me, right? That's what everybody seems to say. And so my thoughts on the resolutions are, if you actually stick to it, it's worth it. It's something good. If your New Year resolution, I think the most popular one's probably lose weight, get in the gym,
more money.
Like yeah, of course. If you can actually stick to that the entire year and fulfill it, then hell yeah, I'm all about it. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, whatever helps. If you feel like having a New Year's resolution makes you feel better, then I always say whatever helps you. Don't worry about anyone else or what their opinion is. If you feel like making a resolution makes you a better person, then I'm all for it.
Yeah.
If you feel like you don't need one, it's a waste of time, then I'm all for that as well. So
I hear you. So anything else going on? Anybody comment on resolutions or anything? And for those who are listening on the podcast, we do stream this live every Friday at 2 p.m. on our Off Leash Canine Training LLC headquarters Facebook page. So you are welcome to screw off and work doing absolutely nothing and watching us while you're doing it. So, feel free to do that. And obviously we appreciate everybody's support more than you know. But anything else you got going on?
No, I think that about wraps it up. So what I'm gonna do, guys, is we're gonna put that test. I'm gonna have Darcy, who's our website lady, do something. She'll figure it out. Put it up on our website, thedogshowpodcast.com. I'll put the website in the comments now so you guys have it. It'll definitely be up today. But she'll put up that test, and it's in a PDF I created, so you guys can print it out and you can use it. And what I encourage before we close out is if you have friends or family that you know who is thinking about getting a dog, then now you take this information and give it to them. Like, you be the hero and say, hey, this is something you guys should do. So now it prevents them from hardship in the future. So I would highly recommend sharing it. And we'll have it up on the website. I just commented the website below just now. We'll have it up there at some point today. Check back, and it'll be up there for you guys.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we appreciate you all.
Wait, hold on. And before you close out, do you think it's okay to ask a bitch to sit?
Nope.
Why not?
Well, I do think it's okay. I apologize. I do think it's okay, actually.
Okay. Well, I guess just, you guys will have to...
Let's tune in next week. See what the hell we're talking about.
The Dog Show with Nick and Joe. The Dog Show.